Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. My name is Morgan Colby. Got Rick Lemon right across from me.
What's up?
I'm trying to sound a little bit better today.
It's not working.
It's not working.
Yeah.
It's October 16th, Wednesday. We got football tomorrow. We got some matchup breakdowns. We got week 6 booms and busts, some trade targets. Before we get into our booms and busts for the week, check out our website at thefantasychampions.com. Go over and follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Twitter at the FFChamps, Instagram at the Fantasy Champions. Go to facebook.com/thefantasychampions to like us there. Subscribe wherever you listen: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play. Click the bell for notifications on YouTube. Leave a review. Share this podcast with your friends. Let's get right into booms and busts.
Wow,
that was a minute and a half intro. So I liked it.
That was clean. Can't even lie.
So let's start off by talking about the booms at the quarterback position. Deshaun Watson is returning to form. 31 fantasy points this week.
My guy.
He's like, my guy. Yeah, it felt like a waste of a 6th round draft choice for you for a little while there.
It probably still kind of was, because I could have drafted Lamar and had the same production.
Fair.
Which I almost did.
You would have had.
Instead, I drafted Josh Allen.
Yeah, now you got Hunter Henry, too. You clown.
Oh, I did, didn't I?
Yeah. So, Deshaun Watson, 31 points, had a great game this week. Matt Ryan had 30. He's actually been decent. We talked about in the offseason how Matt Ryan has his boom years and he has his bust. He's repeating his boom year.
He is. It's
He's
funny because
breaking
the Falcons
trend.
below. Like all of his
points. But all the offensive weapons.
It's because he's getting trash time points.
It's like they get down by 40 and he's still
That's literally what happens.
Yeah. Maybe that's why Devonta Freeman has been as bad as he has been on the ground. He's been better lately, but yeah. So Matt Ryan, I mean, I'm kind of surprised that he is playing as well as he is. But we should have expected this, considering that they had Dirk Cutter come in and he's a terrible offensive coordinator, but he throws it a lot. So there's that. Lamar Jackson had 30 points. He's we talked about him on our last show. He's becoming the number 1 quarterback.
Yeah, he's right there.
So if he continues to play the way that he has, he's going to be a hugely successful quarterback this year. The rushing yards are really what is becoming the catalyst for his 30-point games.
We knew it was going to be a 4-headed monster at quarterback this year. We just thought it would be Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, Aaron Rodgers, and Andrew Luck.
But right now, it's Matt Ryan, Lamar Jackson, Russell Wilson, and Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
Shows you what we know about
2 of the 4.
Yeah. I believe we had Deshaun Watson, Mahomes, and no one else.
Hey,
who was our number 3 quarterback? I don't remember.
Probably Rodgers. Like
Rodgers, yeah.
We did say to draft Lamar Jackson though.
Yeah, that was a good take. Russell Wilson has been consistently putting up these big games. He had 28 points this week. What is the future hold for the Russell Wilson?
I mean,
for the Russell Wilson owner.
Start him every week, that's for sure. He's a top 5 fantasy quarterback. I think there's no question about it.
Yeah.
Will he finish number 1? Probably not.
No, probably not.
But I think he'll be top 3.
Yeah. He is currently. I'm trying to find the schedule here for him. He's currently has the 9th easiest playoff schedule, and then he has the 3rd easiest games coming up, the next 3 games. So, and rest of season, he has the 6th easiest schedule. So, that's good for him, I guess. He has Atlanta, Tampa Bay, San Francisco, and then a bye week, and then a relatively easy end to the season. So I'm thinking, for Lamar, if he's in games where the other team is scoring a lot, which it looks like he's facing some teams that can score, he's going to have to put up fantasy points, and that's going to be it. I don't know if he's going to score 30 points a game.
Yeah.
But I think he could probably score 20 to 25, which could become more consistent. But when he can't pass it, he goes to the run. And when you're talking about a quarterback who can run the football, that's becomes way more valuable.
It does, yeah.
So I mean, Lamar is Lamar. We know what he is now. You got to start him on a week-to-week basis no matter who he's playing. But another guy I want to talk about, Kyler Murray. He had 28 fantasy points this week. Kyler has been getting better and better every single week. He had 11 rushes in this last game. Didn't get a lot of yardage. I think it was like 35 yards. But when you have a quarterback, this is another guy that a lot of people were talking about, including myself at the beginning of the year. You didn't buy in. You were very much like, no, stay away. The reason why I like Kyler Murray at the beginning of the season was because he was going to run the ball an insane amount, not because he was going to throw the football very well. Like, he is throwing the ball well, but it wasn't because he was going to throw it well. It was because he was going to run it, and that's what he's been doing right now. It just took a little while to jump into.
I mean, he's a good play, but it's just going to come down to matchups for him, like most quarterbacks, though.
Yeah,
like he had a very good matchup this week. He was home against Atlanta, so
right.
I still like Kyler Murray.
He's got mediocre matchups after week 12 after his bye. But over the next couple weeks, it's a little more difficult. He does have this week the New York Giants. So
he could probably do.
That's a good game for him.
Yeah, he could probably do some things.
And then he's got New Orleans, which is going to be a little bit tougher. San Francisco, which is going to be tough.
Really tough.
Tampa Bay, he'll probably take apart. They're averaging 25 points a game against quarterbacks. And then San Francisco before the bye week. So it's going to be
San Fran toys.
Yeah. So it's going to be a tough go about thing. San Fran's averaging 11 fantasy points to quarterbacks right now.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. But yeah, I think Kyler rest of the season, where would you rank him?
He's like around 10 probably. 9 or 10.
Yeah, I would put him around the same area. I was going to say 8, 9 or 10. Just because he's not going to put up 28 points a game. So there's going to be a lot of excited Kyler Murray owners.
Yeah.
They're going to start him this week, and he's probably going to have a really good game against the Giants, but then after 2 good games, they're going to be like, let's go. Saddle him up against San Francisco or New Orleans.
Yeah,
and then he's going to crap the bed. But in those games, the amount that Arizona does pass the football, right? If Kyler's running it all over the field, do you think that he's going to have bad fantasy weeks in general, or is it just going to be...
If he's running it all over the field?
Yeah.
No, I think he'll probably consistently get like 20 points about.
Okay. And then let's just quickly... Tom Brady, 23 fantasy points, but only because he ran for one.
Yeah, pretty much.
He had a crappy game on Thursday Night Football, but Baker had 22 fantasy points.
If he didn't throw his picks, he would have had a really good week.
He would have had a really good week. So Baker finally returning to what you want him to be, I guess.
Still not.
Carson Wentz had a normal game. Sam Darnold with 20 fantasy points. So if you had streamed him against, who did he play yesterday?
Cowboys.
Dallas.
Yeah.
If you streamed him against Dallas, which I wouldn't have recommended, that was a good play for you. But the only other guy that I did want to talk about before we get to the bust at the quarterback position was Kirk Cousins. The last 2 weeks for Kirk Cousins, he's been actually relatively good. I know you talked about him early in the offseason before the season started, saying that he is a good quarterback to have on your team because he always finishes in the top 10 or something like that.
Yeah.
And he started off the season so bad until they realized, oh crap, we have to get the football we have to win games. We got to throw the football. So Kirk Cousins has been throwing a lot more as of late. First 3 games of the season, he averaged about 20 attempts a game. In the last 3 games, he's averaging right around 28, 29 attempts per game. So he's been a lot better. He threw 4 touchdowns, 300 yards, only 1 interception this past week. So he had 28 points. Week before, he had 300 yards, 2 touchdowns. Looked pretty good in that game as well. Do you see a streaming option in the future of Kirk Cousins?
Yes, I do.
Okay. I agree.
Maybe not this week though. I don't know who they're playing.
No. Yeah, we'll see. Hold on, I got that in front of me right now. He's got Philly. He played Philly this week. I'm sorry, Detroit. That's mediocre.
Yeah, it's mediocre. Some busts.
Yeah.
So,
Minshew, do you consider Minshew a bust this week?
Yeah, for me, because I thought he would be a good streaming option.
I was kind of nervous. What did they play, Denver?
The Saints.
The Saints? Yeah, no. Why did you think that was a good streaming option?
It was
home. Oh, yeah.
And he had put to that point, he hadn't had less than 18 fantasy points, I think.
Right.
He had 18 to 20 for like 3 or 4 straight weeks.
Right.
So
Jimmy G had a total of 13 fantasy points.
yeah, not great.
He didn't have a great game. He played.
It was the Rams in LA.
Yeah, that's not a good matchup. I have not seen I know a lot of people really like Jimmy G as a fantasy quarterback. I haven't seen the fantasy production against a good matchup. Yeah, I would pick him up, but even when he has a good matchup, he's not going to give you 30 fantasy points. So it's like he's good, but he's not.
He shouldn't be on a roster, honestly.
He should not be on your roster if you do have him on your roster.
Yeah.
He's the guy that you could probably drop this week. And I would say Fitzmagic played this week.
He did. They benched Josh Rosen. So
all right, Josh Gordon. What the hell is his name?
Josh Rosen.
Josh Rosen is done.
Yep.
He's officially done.
So, you know who was the real bust, though?
Who?
Look at the very bottom of that list, bro.
Very last quarterback.
Not the very last, the one before the very last.
Jared Goff.
1 fantasy point.
Goff.
People starting him. We even said he was at home. It wouldn't be a terrible play. 1 fantasy point. Is Jared Goff just like done, like fantasy wise this year? Are you like just done with him?
No, I think he's shown at times that he can be. So now
we have
scored
20 points.
We have to revise his home situation.
Or do we just underestimate the 49ers defense?
I think we just underestimated the 49ers defense. But I'm going to tell you, Goff at home against a good matchup is a great play. But unless he's in that scenario, I would say no.
He has 10, 20, 16, 22, 18, 1. So it's not the worst, but
yeah,
next 2 weeks could actually be good starts, though.
Yeah. But Goff at this point is definitely not like he makes you feel good and then he makes you feel bad. And then like if you have Goff on your team as a starting quarterback every week, you are failing miserably.
Pretty much.
So Goff was, probably the biggest bust of the week. Bridgewater did have 13 fantasy points as well. So if you streamed him this week, you were disappointed. I am amazed that Jameis Winston had 17 fantasy points this week.
Wow, he had 17?
If he did not throw a pick in that game, he would have had 27 fantasy points.
It's ridiculous.
He's still good. Like, people are going to drop him and freak out. He's
as an
good.
NFL quarterback, he's really not that good. But as a fantasy option, he is.
Honestly, I know we want to roast Jameis Winston after having that terrible game, and like everyone was like, "Oh, he needs to be pulled. He's a terrible quarterback. He's not good." But when you look at the last couple weeks, he has these stretches of games, like game 1 against San Francisco, threw 3 picks. Yesterday against Carolina, or Sunday against Carolina, he had 5 interceptions, right? But over the course of the 5 games was it 5? Is that 4 games? 4 games in between.
Yeah.
He had 10 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and 1,100 yards.
Pretty solid.
Like, he doesn't throw when he faces tough defenses, he throws a lot of picks. It's as simple as that. But he's a great. I think Bruce Arians. It's going to take a lot longer to hone the Jameis Winston player, and Bruce Arians is going to take his time on that. But even like Jameis Winston said this after the game, he acknowledged it and he said exactly what his coach said. He said they basically both said he was playing too much hero ball. He was throwing it all over the field, trying to force it into situations when he should have been throwing it away.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what they've been working on. It's decision making. That's like he's got a great arm. He's an extremely good talent. His decision making is so bad sometimes. And when he gets frazzled in games, it's like when you get to his head, like against San Francisco, they got into his head through 3 picks. Against Carolina, they got into his head through 5 picks. First throw of the game. Was it to Mike Evans, I think? I can't remember if it was the first throw, but on the first drive of the game, he threw it to Mike Evans, bounced off Mike Evans' hands, and was an interception. And it's like, right away, I was like, oh, Winston's going to have a bad day today, because it was like, he just doesn't mentally work well when you screw with him. Yeah. So let's move into the running backs. We had, Christian freaking McCaffrey. Hold on a second. I clicked on the wrong thing. It wasn't Christian McCaffrey. It was James Conner. Yeah, I'm sorry. I clicked on the wrong thing. James Conner had a 27-point game, I believe. Is James Conner back to James Conner, or is he just
I don't really know.
Yeah, that's what I've been confused by. I'm like, is this where we decide, like, okay, James Conner is back? Because when they have to utilize
also, Jalen Samuels is out for the whole month, so I think that helps because he's like the only running back on the roster pretty much at this point.
I think the Steelers thought they could get cute with Jalen Samuels, and it worked for one game and didn't work for another. But now that he's out for a couple weeks, this is what. But I mean, even against do you want to hear his line just rushing?
What is it?
16 for 40, 2.6 yards a carry. The long was 12, and he had a rushing touchdown. What saved his game was the 7 receptions for 78 yards.
It's the David Johnson factor.
Yeah.
Because will that change with whoever they play at quarterback? No. They're gonna throw a lot of screens. They're gonna do a lot of dump downs.
Yeah.
So he's gonna get like 5+ catches a game.
I don't think it'll change. He's got an easy matchup next week, but he is not.
He's actually gonna bye next week. That's the week after.
Yeah, I'm sorry. A week 8 against Miami is what I meant to say. But he's averaged 4 yards a carry once this year. He's reached 50+ yards once this year. So he's been bad on the ground. But through the air, I mean, when you get targeted 7-8 times a game as a running back, you might actually be a good option. I am scared of the efficiency for James Conner.
Yeah.
But
it's not looking terrible.
Yeah, not looking terrible. Some other notables: Nick Chubb, 26. He's what he is what we thought he was. Devonta Freeman with 25 now. I haven't made any points on Devonta Freeman. I don't think you've talked about him on the show very much. We talked about him a little bit and talked about how bad he's been on the ground.
Yeah.
In the last couple weeks, Freeman has improved. He's gotten better. Is Devonta Freeman back, or
I wouldn't necessarily say he's back, but he's getting involved in the passing a lot. It's once again the James Conner, the David Johnson. It's that effect. He's getting. He had another, I think, 2 straight weeks now with a passing or receiving touchdown.
Because the last 2 weeks he
had 2 receiving touchdowns this week.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And he did have a very
without that he would have.
He had a very good matchup though. He played the Cardinals.
So the beginning of the season, and I think this is what people don't really talk about with Devonta Freeman, right?
He had 2 very tough games.
He had Minnesota and Philly, which were just bad, and we talked about how bad that was. When he got a decent matchup against Indianapolis, he had 16 for 88 and 5.5 yards a carry, which is really good. And then he went up against Tennessee, and then he went up against Houston, and it's like 2.3 yards a carry, 2.7 yards a carry, and then against Arizona, 19 carries, 88 yards, like that's 4.6 yards a carry. That's good. So it's like when they give him the ball more than 15 times, he gets into a rhythm and he breaks one, and he has a really good game. But it's like, for me, he's going to be matchup dependent. Rest of season, he doesn't have a lot of great matchups, but the big thing that you can bank on in that passing offense is his 5 targets a game, and that's going to be the big one for him. And I think the other part of it is that he's got to start getting more involved, in the game in terms of touchdowns, and he hasn't done that this year. But when he does, you see what happens. The 25 fantasy points. Without his 2 touchdowns, what would he have? 13 fantasy points? Which is not bad. Yeah. It's a good flex. But, yeah. So David Johnson, 25 fantasy points. Chris Carson, 23 fantasy points. Zeke, I am so tired of watching Ezekiel Elliott run the football and play in the Dallas Cowboys offense and look really bad, and then look at my fantasy app and go, he scored 23.
It's like, because I think he scored like 5 points in the first half.
Yeah,
it was the same with Dak too.
That's insane. Christian McCaffrey had 19. It looked like he had a way better day than he did because he scored 2 touchdowns in the first half.
Yeah.
And then Carlos Hyde, my goodness, ruining my week because I faced him and they started him for some strange reason, probably because of a bye week. And Carlos Hyde's had 17 fantasy points this week.
I mean, he hasn't had less than 8 points this year.
I mean,
he hasn't had more than 12
cool.
though. But
that's cool. But like, I mean, the 1 week though,
he's been out about 8 to 12. He had 26 carries.
Yeah. That's probably why. I didn't expect him to have that much because they were bouncing back and forth with the lead between them and KC, and I did not expect him to have a good game because they were playing Kansas City and they were going to pass the whole time. But apparently not. 17 fantasy points for Carlos Hyde. Do not expect that rest of season because these people are going to start Carlos Hyde because he had 17 points. It's going to be crazy. Miles Sanders, I looked at his numbers after the game, and I was very impressed by the total that he put up for fantasy points, but not by the game. He scored a touchdown. So he's getting around 10 to 12 points a week. He's just not scoring touchdowns because Jordan Howard gets that work. So... And if your league also scores for kick returns and punt returns, that's also a plus for Miles Sanders. Yes. But I think, you know what I mean? He's going to be a really good running back when they give him
the work.
But at this point, I don't think that's going to happen this year, especially with Jordan Howard. And then Leonard Fournette, number 10, 14 fantasy points. Some other notables. Adrian Peterson had 20 carries, 14 fantasy points. He's keeping himself alive, baby. That running game for Washington. So disgusting. But yeah, Fournette had, I think, 26 touches again.
Wow.
He just does that every single week. If he was in an offense that got to the goal line, like the Carolina Panthers, he'd be like the AFC's freaking Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, pretty much. He would,
He literally can't get in the red zone at all because his offense completely blows. Not all the time. They've been good the last couple weeks, but like until Nick Foles gets back, Fournette's probably going to be a 14, 15 point a game guy. You got some busts for us?
Yeah, I mean, Melvin Gordon, 6 points isn't what you wanted him to do.
Joe Mixon.
They were down 14-0 in that game. Yeah, Joe Mixon. Right when you think Joe Mixon is starting to do good. Yeah, it's funny. We had that question. Who should I start, Joe Mixon or Sony Michel? Yeah. And I said Sony, and then he got 12 points. I was like, I should have said Joe. And then he got 5. So
hey, you feel better about that?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, Joe Mixon has just been extremely inefficient this year. So I mean, what's the future hold for Joe Mixon? I really do think it's his offensive line because last year. Oh no,
his offensive line blows, and the Bengals have the worst offensive line in football. I've come to that conclusion.
Why did he only get 8 carries? He only had 11 touches.
So he should have get more touches than that. But they were losing the whole game.
To be honest with you, and I'm not a huge fan of Andy Dalton, but I feel like this team should be winning games. At least like
they shouldn't be winning.
Maybe
but they
like
should,
maybe like 5 games.
They should be.
They're completely they're
they
defeated.
Be 0-5.
They're 0-5. They're 0-6. Yeah, you're right. Wait a minute. I'm sorry.
I gotta look that up. Have they had a bye? I don't know.
Oh, it's just not listed yet. I think they lost this week against Baltimore.
They did lose this week. They're 0-6.
They're 0-6. Their bye's week 9. They got Jacksonville, Los Angeles coming up the next 2 weeks. I mean, they are closer in games when they get Joe Mixon the ball, so I don't really understand what they're doing. But
they were just getting blown out the whole game, so I think they were throwing it.
But I'm like, in the last 3 weeks against Buffalo, Pittsburgh, and Arizona, he's had 15 or more carries, and in those games, he's averaged about 4.3 yards a carry. It's like, why are they not getting him? And then last game, he had 8 rushes for 10 yards, 1.3 yards a carry, and just was trash. Longest rush was 3 yards.
Yeah,
against Baltimore. So I don't know. It's concerning. Very, very concerning for Joe Mixon. Is he a bench here on
he might, the future? It's really mad. It's super.
Or was it just a bad game? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
I mean, he hasn't been great this year anyway.
Damian Williams. If you had any hope for him,
there isn't any hope. There is not.
What
hope.
Did I tell you?
You were right.
Freaking Damian Williams.
What did he finish with?
8 points.
Oh. It wasn't too bad, but not great. Not good.
He's like in a half PPR league. Yeah, that's not good. Derrick Henry, 3.8 fantasy points.
Wow, that was a big.
He's come back down to earth. He's Derrick Henry now. The Derrick Henry that I said was going to be a bust, and I hope this take is right continually. You have flipped back and forth on Henry. Give us your final true thoughts on Derrick Henry after 6 games.
He's a low-end RB2.
Yeah, I never didn't believe that, but the people that had him as a mid to low-end RB1 were.
I never had him as a mid-end RB1. There might have been, after week 1, I might have said.
And he's not bad. It's just, like this week he had 15 attempts for 28 yards.
The thing with Derrick Henry, he's going to get carries every single week.
Yeah, right? He's just not.
It's just a matter of.
Like he slipped back into that 3 yards a carry And that's what I noticed. Those first 2 games where you got really good games from him, he had 4.4 yards a carry and 5.4 yards a carry against Indy and Cleveland. Since then, against Jacksonville, Atlanta, Buffalo, and Denver, he's had 2.6 yards a carry, 3.7 yards a carry, 3.9 yards a carry, and 1.9 yards a carry. So he's falling apart. Like, this is Derrick Henry. This is like, he's not a good running back. Like, he's a good backup. But like, people treat him like he's this big time, like, great running, and it's like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong and he'll go off the second half of the season, but like, when you're talking about like taking those 3 games and putting them together, averaging 3.5 yards a carry, that's pretty bad. I don't know.
No, it's not good.
Is it just me? Let's talk about wide receivers, unless you have anybody else you want to talk about for running backs.
I think Derrick Henry was the last guy. So
okay, Stefan Diggs. If there was somebody that started that started Stefan Diggs this week, I want to know who you are, and congratulations, because I did not start Stefan Diggs this week. Diggs is so in the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, like I've talked about, they have gotten back to passing the football like they have. Does that mean that Thielen and Diggs' value goes back to what it was last year, or is this just an anomaly?
I think it might slowly. I don't know if we've reached the point where it's fully back to where it was last year.
Yeah, right. No,
but obviously,
right.
But I wouldn't call it an anomaly either. I think there's a chance.
Diggs is really good. Like, he's not.
Yeah.
He's a great.
There's a chance the Vikings just realized, we need to throw the ball.
Last week was a punishment game for Diggs after all the trade rumors.
Yeah.
They got him involved this week, and a lot of it was touchdowns, obviously. But if he gets his 80, 90 yards a game, right now he's a wide receiver 2 again. 40 points. He puts him at wide receiver. He's a 15th wide receiver in all of fantasy right now. Can you believe that? Just based on one game.
He's the 15th wide receiver.
If I just showed you that in his fantasy point total for 6 weeks, you would have said, "Oh, that's Stefan Diggs." And then I would have showed you the lines, and you would have been like, "What the freak happened?"
Yeah.
So,
wow.
Yeah, Diggs, he usually gets you about 10 to 15 points a game in an offense that passes the football. And then he has that occasional, like, monster 30, 40-point game, which is what he did last year. But, I hope that's what he is. But if you have any window to sell Stefan Diggs, freaking do it right now.
Yes,
just do it. McLaren, 24 points. He scored 2 touchdowns again. He is the red zone target for the Washington Redskins.
They also did play the Dolphins this week.
They did play the Dolphins this week, true. But Terry McLaurin, even against bad matchups, Terry McLaurin has been decent.
Oh, yeah.
I'm confused because I really don't want to like Terry McLaurin just purely because he's a rookie. But the fact that he's playing this well, and right now I believe
he's the number 1 receiver on the team.
He's the wide receiver 13 or 14, I'm not sure. But he's there. And he probably missed a game against the Giants. He probably would have had 15 to 20 points in that game as well. So it's like, you talk about the averages for Terry McLaurin. He's looking like a good wide receiver. He's the number 1 guy. He's the red zone target. I keep wanting to say Case Keenum, but I know that's not the starting quarterback's name.
It is.
It is?
Yeah.
Oh, crap. With Case Keenum throwing the football?
They've had Colt McCoy, Case Keenum, and Dwayne Haskins.
I'm done with that. I also still think Kirk Cousins is was he ever a Redskin? I don't know.
Yes, he was for
just
3+ years.
I put them all in the same.
They kind of are the same, so
I'm sick. Forgive me. But Terry McLaurin, 24 fantasy points. When do we start saying this guy is legit? Because that's where I'm trying to figure out. Like, how many weeks does he have to do this in a row before you go?
No, I think he's legit, but you still don't start him against bad teams. He's a lot like a lot of these receivers that have kind of come out of nowhere this year.
You don't stream wide receivers and running backs, but he's a streaming wide receiver.
Yes, pretty much. He's a weekly flex option.
Yeah. I think if you need a flex, he's a good one to have. The big thing is he's not getting targeted 10 times a game. You know what I mean? He's getting targeted like 7, 8 times a game. So I'm not really a huge fan of that. But we'll see. We'll see as the season goes along. I believe to me, Terry McLaurin is a touchdown dependent wide receiver. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
We talked about Tyreek Hill on our last show, but comes back. It's 22 fantasy points. He was really good. Curtis Samuel had a 21-point game. I dropped him this past week, and I don't want to get too hyped up on Curtis Samuel just because he did have a good game through the air, but it was a normal Curtis Samuel game. What really set him off was the rushing touchdown.
Yeah.
That's what gave him the big game. So he would have had a 13, 14, 15-point game, without the rushing touchdown, but with it, he 21 fantasy points, fifth best wide receiver of the week, fourth best wide receiver of the week. I'm sorry. Robbie Anderson had 21. Mostly do that. You said it was 91 yards. I'm just gonna believe you.
It was 91 yards.
Okay, I'm gonna confirm.
I'm just gonna believe you, but I'm gonna.
You know what? I'm gonna confirm it now. I want to make sure that this is exactly what I want to do. 92 yards actually. So
see, good thing you confirm it because I was a yard off.
Yeah, it's like yes. 21 fantasy points. He had a really good game. I want to see what Robbie Anderson does in the future. Obviously, we had this debate on the last show for Jamison Crowder and Robbie Anderson. I really think it's probably just going to end up being week to week at this point. I kind of hate when that happens in fantasy football.
Yeah.
But if Robbie Anderson continues to play with 21 fantasy points, he's obviously a great play. I don't know that anyone dropped him. I know in our league somebody dropped him and I picked him up. So if he's on, I would check at this point.
Yeah.
Let me just check to see. He is owned in 59% of leagues. So. Chris Godwin, 20 fantasy points. Golden Tate, 19. Alshon Jeffrey, 18. Jaron Brown, the wide receiver that everyone thought was going to ascend in the Seattle offense, has finally ascended in the Seattle offense. He was hurt for most of the season, came back the last couple weeks. Now it's with freaking 16 fantasy points.
Yeah, pretty good.
Is he a guy that you expect to be any good in the future?
I'm not.
I'm gonna say
putting
no.
a lot of stock into it.
No. Yeah, and then Mike Evans was 16. What do we got for some busts this week?
We have a lot of busts, unfortunately.
Would you consider DJ Chark a bust?
Yes, I would actually. Not
See,
entirely.
I don't think so because
even people who are high on Chark like me, I didn't really expect him to have a big week this week anyway.
Yeah.
But some of the guys too that other than Chark, I was looking at. Brandon Cooks.
Yep.
Pretty much the whole Rams offense.
When is it not a bust for Brandon Cooks?
Cooks is hit or miss, man. He just is. Cooper Kupp, too, though, had an awful week because...
Yeah, after a very, very hot start to the season.
He's getting 20-plus every single week.
I just want to remind everyone that Cooper Kupp is not matchup dependent. And I think he's close to being at that point. But the problem with Cooper Kupp is Jared Goff.
Yeah, that's true.
And... if Jared Goff is not playing well, like he did not play well in that game on Sunday.
Other than this past week, though, Kupp has gotten...
No, he's been really good. But this was just a really bad game for him.
Yeah.
And hey, I just wanted to note this because I want to go back to last week and tell all the people who went out and picked up the Pringle. Byron Pringle had 3 fantasy points. Yeah. So if
I'm surprised he even got 3.
At this point, if you have Mia Cole Harbin, you're safe to drop him. If you have Byron Pringle, you're safe to drop him. If you have Demarcus Robinson, you're safe to drop him. When Sammy Watkins gets back, no one at the receiving core in Kansas City is going to be startable, except for Tyreek Hill and maybe Sammy Watkins.
Yeah, and then Keenan Allen had 4 points. He's fallen off the map big time. Tyler Boyd, 2.5 points. 3 catches for 10 yards.
You started him. How does it feel?
It's fine because I still won this week.
Yeah, that's true. Juju had 1 fantasy point. I think he only caught 1 ball.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. I mean, not a ton of busts this week.
No.
Just Cooper Kupp, Juju Smith-Schuster, and
I'd say Tyler Boyd.
And Keenan Allen. And Tyler Boyd and Brandon Cooks. But, I mean, those guys are not entirely out of the bust category.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't a surprise.
Is Will Fuller a bust considering the week he had the previous week?
I don't think so. I don't think so, only because I don't know.
Well, he's been doing that all year. He's been at like 6-7 fantasy points all year. Then he goes off for like a 40-plus point week. Everybody goes nuts, and now he's back to 6-7 points. So
yeah, I mean Fuller. That's what I expect him to be. He is seeing an increase in target share though. That's the good thing about Will Fuller. But if you have him be okay with that, but he's touchdown dependent. Right. He had a really good week. He caught 3 touchdowns. You know what I mean? It's like if he doesn't catch a touchdown, he's kind of screwed. You know what I mean? Whereas like Hopkins can go in a game and catch 10 balls and be all right.
Right.
Yeah, let's move on to tight end booms, and we'll talk about these guys really quickly. Hunter Henry, 26 fantasy points. Austin Hooper, 21 fantasy points. You own both of them in our league. Frick you.
I do.
So there's
Thank you. And who's my favorite tight end in the league?
Austin Hooper.
No, it's number 3, George Kittle.
Oh, boy. Kittle has been not great this year. Travis Kelce has been not great this year. Zach Ertz has been not great.
I was just going to say, that's true, but out of the 3, Kittle, I think, has been the best.
Yeah, probably.
But none of them have been that great.
So we got a good game from George Kittle, 14 points, finally getting back to it.
He hasn't. I think he has 1 touchdown this year. Yeah. If he's been getting touchdowns like he did last year, we'd be talking about Kittle like we are. With
I think it's just because Jimmy Garoppolo knows how to spread the offense.
Yeah, it is.
Ricky Seals-Jones, 12 fantasy points for Cleveland. They offensively looked a lot better this week. Other than the picks, Baker Mayfield looked better. So if they continue to play like this offensively, you're starting to see the makings of a. Is David Njoku on IR? I really need to confirm that. But Ricky Seals-Jones is not a bad tight end, but I don't see this happening on a week-to-week basis. Cameron Brate had 11, just ripping the heart and soul out of O.J. Howard owners, if there is still any. Jared Cook with 11. Mark Andrews had 10. He had a normal game. Max Williams in Arizona had 10. Ryan Griffin had 10. And then Darren Fells had 9. We're starting to get into that point of having complete nobodies.
Yeah.
Get 9 or 10 point games and you can never predict it. Jason Witten had 8. I was kind of hesitant to start. I wanted to start Jason Witten last week, but I didn't tell people to do it. That would have been a decent game.
He would have had. Yeah.
So those are the only guys, unless you have anybody else that you want to note in terms of breakout games. I mean, Hunter Henry's return was insane.
Yeah,
I don't expect that on a week-to-week basis because they have so many weapons.
He's played 2 games this year. In both games, he was a start. So,
yeah,
it's just a matter of him staying on the field.
Right. I'm gonna say, is there a bust?
Zach Ertz.
Is there a bust for tight ends besides Zach Ertz? I mean, O.J. Howard is just normal.
Yeah, O.J. Howard is completely useless.
Yeah, Zach Ertz would be a bust this week. Outside of that, I wouldn't say anyone else is a bust. So,
Travis Kelce getting 7.8. I think is a borderline bust.
Yeah. Let's move into our trade targets segment of the show.
Okay.
I need to scroll down in my notes. I'll say DeAndre Hopkins again, and the reason why I say DeAndre Hopkins is because he had a decent week. He caught 12 balls. It was the depth of target was bad.
Yeah.
9 receptions, 55 yards. Like, that's not good.
Oh yeah.
But he caught 9 balls, so that was a good 12 targets. Yeah. The only I noticed this metric, and I don't know if it's going to change as the season goes along, but DeAndre Hopkins has not been. Last year he was targeted 15 times all season inside the 10-yard line. This year he's been targeted 0 times inside the 10-yard line. So,
really?
Yeah, they have not been targeting him in the red zone. It is getting really interesting as the season goes along to see how they utilize DeAndre Hopkins. But I don't know. I mean, he's worth a buy. He's worth a buy big time because he's DeAndre Hopkins. He's a top 3 wide receiver. He's going to get targeted 12 times a game. This is not going to. These bad games are not going to continue happening. The only reason why he's having bad games right now is because he's not catching touchdowns.
No, it's true.
When he starts catching touchdowns, DeAndre Hopkins is back. So that owner right now is probably sitting there going, oh, well, 12 points is good, but he's not back. We were expecting a massive game from Hopkins, but there actually wasn't that much scoring in the game against Kansas City. What was it, 24-20? Did they end up scoring 30? I don't remember.
No, I think it was high 20s.
I think the under happened, which is not what we expected.
Yeah.
But DeAndre Hopkins is a buy for me.
No, I agree pretty much with everything you said. The Hopkins owner, other than week 1, if you take out week 1, Hopkins has been very poor this year in fantasy.
Right.
Which is a perfect reason to buy him because I think rest of the season he will be top 5 at least. Probably. Right. I mean, we think top 3. He gets targets. He's getting the targets. I think it's just a matter of time before he really breaks out.
Yeah.
Now would be the go-to time to get DeAndre Hopkins on your team.
Right. Number 2 on our list is Zachary Ertz.
Zach Ertz.
Ertz has had a really bad start to the season. He has not been good.
Considering you drafted him in probably the third or fourth round, you're definitely disappointed.
This is why people, and the Travis Kelce owners, and the Zach Ertz owners, this is why you don't draft tight ends early. This is why you don't draft tight ends early. I waited, and I have Darren Waller. You waited, and you have Austin Hooper. Another team, another team in our league owns Mark Andrews, but I don't think he
traded for him.
He traded for him, but I don't remember if he drafted a tight end early or not.
Oh,
he may have.
I don't know.
But anyway,
he drafted Hunter Henry.
Oh, yeah. So, but for me, I really don't see a reason to draft. If you can pick out an offense that's going to start utilizing the tight end a lot, like Oakland is, I did not expect Austin Hooper to be targeted as much as he is in the offense. But I should have looked at Dirk Cutter's system when he was in.
We did in the offseason. You were saying how high you were on Austin Hooper.
I loved Austin Hooper in the offseason, but I started fading him a little bit in the end because I was like, he's the third guy in that offense. I mean, he's third or fourth guy, and it doesn't really mean anything when you're throwing 35 passes.
He's been the second. I mean, him and Calvin Ridley have been similar, but he's even getting more catches than Calvin Ridley.
I mean, I thought he might be the fourth guy behind Mohamed Sanu, but I was at this point, he's been fantastic. But Zach Ertz is a buy option because if you go to the Zach Ertz owner and you say, what do you want for Zach Ertz? They're probably done. Just like the Juju owner is done. They're like, I don't want to deal with this anymore. So it's like you can go to the Zach Ertz owner and say, what do you want for him? And they'll probably give you him for a small price. And then if he goes off, you have a top 3 tight end.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Pretty much. And it's not like, so people are going to see the numbers.
Right.
And especially if they drafted Zach Ertz, they're going to be like, he has not been good this year.
Right.
I need to get rid of him. He's been useless to me pretty much. While all these other tight ends that are getting picked up off the waiver wire getting 15 to 20 points. Well, even though, like, for example, Ertz had 5 points this week, he had 4 catches for 54 yards. He did fumble, so he would have had 7 points.
Okay.
And he had 9 targets. In each week this season, he's had 7, 16, 7, 8, 7, 9 targets.
Wow.
So he's consistently getting 7 to 9 targets with an occasional game where he'll get like 12 plus targets. He had 16 in week 2. That's not going to happen every week, but he will have those games where he gets targeted a lot. He's still Zach Ertz. He's still I know this year with tight ends, Cooper's number 1, but he's still a top 3 fantasy tight end. He's still one of those big 3 guys heading into the year. And at this point, whoever owns him probably could give 2 craps about him, and I think now would be a good time to buy him.
Yeah, definitely. And the final guy is Melvin Gordon.
Melvin Gordon, baby.
So Melvin Gordon in the start of this stretch has had 6 fantasy points and 4 fantasy points a couple weeks ago?
I think he had 6 and 6.
And this is in half PPR. So
I think he's had 2 weeks with 6 fantasy points.
Melvin Gordon has not played the way that you wanted him to, but he's not getting the opportunity. So the people who are unaware of opportunity share in fantasy football are the people you should be targeting incessantly and going after them and saying, hey, you idiot. I'll take Melvin Gordon.
He had 8 carries this week.
Yep.
And then last week he had 12. So he's had a total of 20 carries.
Yeah, in 2 weeks.
And it was also like this week in particular.
Yeah.
Phillip Rivers had 3 turnovers in the first quarter or something like that.
Right.
And the Steelers had defensive touchdown and they were up 14-0. And from that point on, that's why Hunter Henry had such a big week and Mike Williams had a big week because from the second quarter on, all the Chargers did was throw the ball for pretty much the rest of the game.
Yeah.
So
when they get back to playing their brand of football, then I think Melvin Gordon's going to get back to normal. The concern for me is that last year, Melvin Gordon was not, game script dependent in terms of when they lost the lead and had to pass it, he was involved still.
Yeah.
He was the guy involved in the. Right now, I think they really want to continue utilizing Eckler in the passing game, and when this team is playing from behind, Melvin Gordon basically becomes irrelevant. And so I hope that doesn't continue.
He's had 10 targets in the 2 games, Melvin Gordon.
Yeah. I mean, it's not, like I said, it's not that he's been bad through the air. It's just he's not been the same player that he was last year.
Eckler actually had the same amount of targets as Melvin Gordon this week.
With that being said, though, right now is probably as low as you can buy Melvin Gordon.
Yes, it is. Yeah,
he will get back to probably playing. I like I said, I told you before, I don't think Melvin Gordon is going to play at the level that Melvin Gordon plays at normally, at least until like the playoffs for fantasy football.
End of the season.
And so I don't think he'll get to that point. And when he does, it'll be at the right time. But for me, it's like Melvin Gordon right now is going to be an RB2 just in terms of the rest of the season because of how they're going to utilize him and Austin Eckler, just because of how late Melvin Gordon got back. Now, I think the earliest he could probably start playing well is his like 5th game. And that's because the first quarter, like running backs have training camp and preseason to get ready for 4 weeks before the regular season starts. And so for me, Melvin Gordon is going to have these 4 weeks to kind of get re-implemented into the offense, and then by the time his 5th game gets here this season, he'll probably start playing a lot better than he has. So he's definitely a trade target. I mean, who's he playing next week?
Good question.
I'm interested.
It is against the Titans.
So yeah, you might even be able to wait another week. I mean, I wouldn't take the risk.
Yeah.
But if you do buy him, don't be like, oh, you told me to buy him and he blows. And he's facing Tennessee, you idiots. So, but like I may even wait a week because if he does have
I have
another
to wait 2. He plays the Bears after that.
So I said,
but then after those 2 weeks, he has an easy schedule.
Right. So like I said, game 5 back, he's perfect. So target Melvin Gordon and over the next couple weeks as they buy. We're only going to talk about one game here because we don't have enough time left.
Okay.
So we're going to talk about the Thursday night football game, Chiefs at Broncos. This is a bad game.
Yeah.
Because it's about to be like...
Be a blowout.
Yeah.
Is Cortland Sutton to start? I have to throw it out there.
Patrick Mahomes. We have Mahomes and we have
Flacco.
Joe Flacco.
So
Joe Flacco's a failure, but don't play him starting. I mean... I don't want to say it, but like...
What are you saying?
If they're in a shootout and he has to pass it 35 times, is Joe Flacco worth a look at the quarterback position for streaming? It's so gross, but it might actually work. Ugh.
He might actually be decent. He's like a deep streaming option, but he is.
Yeah, like if you're in a 2-quarterback league, you're starting Joe Flacco.
No well, if you're in a 2-quarterback league, yeah, probably.
He might be a good streaming option if everyone on your waiver wire, like if you're in a 10-team, 12-team league and there's like
Flacco's
20 quarterbacks owned.
Dude, the last 2 weeks he had 4 and 8, and then he had 5 the week before that.
What's his highest game?
He had 25 against Jacksonville.
Yeah, so I think in a game where it's a shootout, he might actually be decent.
Yeah, he could get like 15 to 20.
This is gonna be a barn burner.
Yeah.
Is it in Denver?
It is. Flacco might be an okay option.
It might be an okay option. Mahomes, obvious must start this week. If you're starting to reel on Mahomes and you're starting to get nervous, you're like, oh, I don't like these 21-point games. Where are my 30-point games that I drafted in the second round? You idiot. Shouldn't have drafted a quarterback in the second round. But I think Mahomes is an obvious start this week against Denver. Denver does have the number 1 pass defense against quarterbacks this year in terms of fantasy football. So I don't and it's on Thursday night. So it's like Mahomes on night games is usually 30 points, but then it's a Thursday night game. So Mahomes on Thursday night games might be 25 points, and then Mahomes in Denver on a night game on Thursday night might equal like 20 fantasy points. So I don't know. He's still a must start. Yeah, there's always that chance he absolutely goes bonkers. Damian Williams and Royce Freeman / Phillip Lindsay.
Well, Lindsay, I know you hate it, but is a must start at this point. I know you hate that, but last 3 weeks he's gotten like 15 plus points.
Lindsay this week had 14 and a half.
14 plus points. What is he on the last few weeks?
He had 22, 14, and then I think he had like a 7-point game the week before that.
I'm looking up the numbers.
Yeah. Against Kansas City and how they've been playing running backs this year.
He still is a must start.
My thing, I don't think he's a must start. And I don't.
Bro, you gotta.
I really
relax
don't. No, he had a 6.
Lindsay
He was not very good in the first couple games of the year. He's had 2 20-point games. He had a good game this week, which was 14 points. But he's not utilized in the passing game excessively. He does get 2, 3, 4 targets a game, maybe. Like it was around 2 to 3. But to me, I don't think he's going to be passed to I don't think he's going to be passed to this week a lot. And with Denver playing from behind, Phillip Lindsay and Royce Freeman are not good plays for me. I mean, I just don't.
I don't think he's a good play, but if Lindsay's on your team,
Thursday night
probably
football,
have to
I
start
just
him at
don't.
this
I know you love to watch those Thursday night games.
I do.
And have some reason to watch them for your
I got my
fantasy
kicker
team.
playing this week.
I would suggest this is just my reasoning. I would suggest not to start Phillip Lindsay because of those reasons. Why would you start Phillip Lindsay?
I think the way he's played the last 2 weeks
to get an informed view.
That's fair. I think the last 2 weeks he's played well enough that if he's already on your team at that point, you're relying on him.
Right.
He's probably already in your flex spot. I don't think you can take him out the way he's been playing this year.
Yep.
And he's got a very good matchup at home against a Chiefs team that has been destroyed by running backs this year. I get your point.
No, they've been destroyed through the air. They've been.
They haven't been bad on the ground.
I will look that up so we can get.
I think it's they were in 23rd.
Phillip Lindsay. See, I don't think Phillip Lindsay's been bad, but he's an RB2.
Yeah, they ranked 23rd against running backs.
Oh, they've gotten worse. Yeah, I mean, I just don't think they're going to give it to him. Like in blowouts, they give it to him like 9 times. Or in games where they have to pass the football, it's like he's not going to have I just don't think he's going to have a lot of opportunity in the game. But, and then Rolls Royce is not a start. Cortland Sutton against the Chiefs passing attack. There's going to be a lot of passing, so if there's any game from Cortland Sutton, absolutely go bonkers. It would be this one.
Let's go, Courtney.
I'm not starting Emmanuel Sanders, though.
No, you're not. I'm starting Sutton, though.
Is Noah Fant a good option? I just started rambling on about some of the Broncos players.
Probably not.
Okay. And then for Kansas City, obviously start Tyreek Hill, obviously start Travis Kelce. DeMarcus Robinson or Mecole Hardman, are either one of those guys to start in this game? Okay. Not even as a low-end flex. Okay, all right.
Well, I guess.
What about Damian Williams? Because I feel like there's going to be a point in this game where I, honest to God, believe that the Chiefs are going to go into Denver and probably beat them by like 20 points.
Oh, wow.
That's a lot, but I don't know. Denver's bad offensively, so
They've won 2 straight, I think.
That's cute.
Yeah.
Mahomes lost 2 straight. Here we go. This is tough. I mean, I guess this is like the one game that I feel like Damian Williams is going to like get 20 points.
He could.
Like, I don't know why.
He could.
I just do, and I shouldn't feel that
You
way.
might speak it into existence.
I hate Damian Williams, too. That's the worst part about this. There is no reasoning behind this. If you want to take a risk, start Damian Williams, but otherwise I would not even.
Okay.
He's going to get a lot of work in the passing game. That's probably about it. Is there anybody else that you want to talk about that's notable in this matchup?
I mean, no. Probably not. McCoy, you're not starting.
Okay.
I guess in a low-end flex, you could probably maybe start Mecole Hardman, but...
Mecole.
Whatever
you want to say.
That doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, it doesn't matter to me. We'll talk about the rest of these matchups on our next podcast. Dolphins at Bills, Jaguars at Bengals, Vikings at Lions, Raiders at Packers. Well, it's going to be a long 12 breakdowns, but it should be fast. But that'll do it for this episode of the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Be sure to listen on Thursday. This is like I was going into an off-season program. Be sure to listen on Tuesday. Be sure to listen tomorrow as we break down more matchups and discuss our starts and sits for the week. Don't forget to check out our website at thefantasychampions.com. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Talk to you tomorrow, Fantasy Champs.
Peace out.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube and follow us on Twitter @TheFFChamps.